Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Continuing what I'm gonna archive and have been archiving on the Charlie Kirk assassination saga. Okay? Now, this is Mark Levine. He is a J. He's a rabid, what you would call warmonger. Alright? Typical corporate type of mentality. His post here says, "A warning to the bigots. We're on to a radical leftist bleeped and murdered Charlie Kirk. Yet the isolationists and anti-Semites are blaming is not real and the Jays. The abuse and exploitation of my dear friend, our friend Charlie, this way is disgusting and unconscionable." So the thing is, he at this point can't say is not real, wasn't involved. So already he's making sure his people that he loves can't be blamed, even though the evidence is still out, right? And it's fair game for people to question what's going on. And he's quick to blame the Marxists and Muslims, right? Because of the action of this one individual. And there's lots of conversations about who this individual is. And it's also bringing up, why is it that you can blame entire groups, but when it's a white male, you don't get to do that? So, again, it's actually disgusting that he would use this to attack Islam. And he says here, "I'm convinced these lowlifes are now mouthpieces for the Marxist Islamists. They sound like them, they agree with them, and some are funded by them." Do you see how he flips it? Islam has nothing to do with anything Kirk had done to him. Nothing at all. Okay? And yet, he's quick to blame them. And Marxist communists and Sharia-loving Muslims don't have anything in common with each other. In the book I did of the fatwas of Imam al-Albani, you will see clearly, and Dr. Salah Fawzan's Aqidah Tawheed playlist, go check it out on my channel, that ideology doesn't get along at all. Alright, so them teaming up is patently absurd. Now, he says, any politician who is associated with them will be strongly and relentlessly fought by me and millions more when they run for election or re-election. No more games. This is a fundamental. We are Americans and constitutional. So see here, so if you're a Muslim, he wants to oppose you. And if you're Marxist, he wants to oppose you. Again, he uses plural here too much. We don't know the political angle of this guy yet. Supposedly, Discord said in the beginning they don't have messages, and then people now are mocking the text between the shooter. He supposedly liked to dress up as a furry. It's still so much murky water here. And yet, Mark Levin is quick to capitalize on anti-Islam rhetoric. And then he further says, no more games, this is fundamental. We Americans and constitutional conservatives want nothing to do with these repulsive bigots, whether they're in or out of office, period. Meanwhile, he's a bigot towards Muslims. Now, there's been a lot of this performative, I'm gonna get along with everyone on the right now. Let's put aside our differences and get along. Matt Walsh had a post like this as well. And that's kayfabe. It's not real. That's just a way to, I don't know, it's a form of virtue signaling. That it's nothing wrong with having disagreements within your own party, right? Because you're not going to agree on anything. And someone being assassinated doesn't mean that you now have to erase those differences, because those are tangible policies, you know? So again, there's some nuance there. That's like when people tell Muslims to all unite in order to go after is not real and protect Iran, and then people point out how we have sectarian differences. So that's a huge conversation in the Muslim world. And then when you look at the right-wing world, you're like, okay, they have their issues that they are infighting about, policies. And then when it comes to the left-wing spectrum, clearly progressives are not going to want the same things policy-wise as the neoliberals, and that's okay. So again, Gator Gar here has a strange way of I don't know, it's like a virtue signaling. So he says here, I'd like to apologize for everything I ever said on this platform up until a week ago. I was still clinging to the idea that the people on the left were redeemable, worth listening to, and not evil. I am very grateful you were patient with me while I grappled with the unpleasant reality of what we're really up against here. And he has 11K likes. Now the thing is, he's saying the people on the left spectrum, your progressives, your Democrats, Blue Dog Democrats, Dixiecrats, there's so many little factions, right, that they're not redeemable. So that little old lady at the garden center who drives a Prius and has an Obama sticker still on her car, she's somehow like really evil. She wants to get ya, right? Or your political science teacher who's still obsessed with Nancy Pelosi. Or your Biden-crat establishment voter who is a boomer. It's just absurd, okay? Antifa is not a good organization. When I had Facebook, I often reposted people who were documenting how they behaved in riots. But again, these people firmly believe that, hey, the right wing wants to do X, Y, and Z concerning the Rainbow Mafia, concerning immigration, taxes, and they're not wrong, right? So I'm a Muslim. I want Sharia law, and that means that gay marriage wouldn't be allowed, technically, right? So if someone's mad at me for supporting policies that curtail gay marriage, they're not wrong to be mad at me for that, and they're not... Okay, how do you put it? I can't be mad at someone for being mad at me and my policies, in a way. Now, I think there should be more conversations around Prophet Lot, peace be upon him, and what he was up against. So, we know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, cursed men who dress like women and women who dress like men. And so, if you get cursed by a prophet, clearly we cannot promote that in society, right? But when you have different policies on the left, like, hey, we want universal child care. We want to increase benefits for disabled people. Like, come on, that's not evil. That's economics, right? It's not personal, it's business. So you begin to see how a lot of these users are quite emotional. They mock the left wing for being irrational, which sometimes they most definitely are. Right now they're drinking Tylenol while pregnant and filming it on TikTok to get at Trump because Trump promoted RFK, and he's somehow come to the conclusion that you should be weary of Tylenol because he contends it's linked to autism. Long story short, point is, there are some absurdities on both sides, but I just wanted to capture here a form of the right-wing meltdown and how he's labeling all of them as evil and not worth listening to. So dialogue is over. They're not redeemable. So then what's left, right? Now we have here Joy Manorino, the gay Italian. And he says here, I'm glad Democrats are beginning to truly fear in this country. I don't want them to feel good anymore after what they've done. May Jimmy Kimmel only be the beginning. Ilhan Omar must be removed from power if we want to see the real tears begin, though. So again, he has talked so much trash about Ilhan Omar, about Muslims, and he is someone who doesn't know how to cool his heels. And I consider him someone who's cosplaying, LARPing. He's trying to act thuggish. And I guarantee if he was confronted in person, he would urinate on himself. I don't respect people like this who are keyboard warriors. And to me, he's the definition of a keyboard warrior. And he keeps saying what they've done. Notice the group here. So, when it comes to this guy's supposed politics, there's no evidence that he was a Democrat. That he, loved Biden and Obama and believed a democracy was better than a republic. We don't have all that now. So why are all people who are on that spectrum being blamed for the actions of this individual? He's a white guy, so why aren't the whites being blamed? He grew up in a MAGA Republican Christian household in Utah. Why aren't we blaming them? If he grew up in a Muslim household, they would say Islam radicalized him. If he was from China, they would say the CCP radicalized him. Okay, if he was a illegal immigrant, they would blame all illegals. Notice that. And also, Jimmy Kimmel said something factually incorrect, which he blamed it on a Magatardian. And that was wrong. Being fired? This is strange. So the cancel culture exists on both sides. And he's saying here he wants Jimmy Kimmel just to be the beginning. So, as people were being deplatformed since 2016 and complaining, now they're like, hey, you know what, let's just be like our enemies, you know? Let's become just as incredulous and censorious as our enemies, and then we basically become no better than them, right? And then we know, unfortunately, well, we don't know, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, but we can predict with some assurances that when the new regime is of the blue party, of the left-wing spectrum, then they will continue censoring, and the right wing will pretend like they never advocated for censorship. And so it's quite sad. And again, Joey is popular amongst Republicans. His status is growing. Muslims should see his rhetoric here and understand that we should not vote for any MAGA person. We have a lot in common with Christians, but they don't see us as potential allies. And again, remember how they're talking about Muslims during this time and keep trying to pin it on us. And Trump was just in the UN insulting Muslims for Sharia law. So remember, the GOP and the MAGA cult is not a friend to us at all. Okay? We should not give them any power whatsoever. That does not mean we go and vote for the left wing because they have the rainbow mafia. But it damn sure does mean you don't vote for people who openly hate you and celebrate banning the hijab, the niqab, and the burqa. Alright? These are not people to be voted for. It should be noted that I don't recall Joy mentioning Charlie every day, or Turning Point USA, when Charlie was alive. But he knows, alright, you gotta maximize clout, you gotta pick the bones dry. Let's, use Charlie's legacy and hoorah and audience capture. So here he says, you cannot watch Charlie's funeral and want anything but the utter destruction of the left. The pain they caused Charlie's young wife and his children. The individual who pulled the trigger and the conspirators who made the plot are to blame. The person who is working in Silicon Valley and likes anime is not to blame for the individual person. Okay, and then he says here, the loss they've caused is immense. This must not be... Oh, hold on. This must be our turning point. We have to stop allowing the left to run this country and the deep state. Again, mixing the left with the deep state. When historically the deep state is the uniparty, and they are nefarious towards the common population of the left and the right. So they don't like the commoners, period. It's more class warfare than anything when it comes to what is the deep state, right? And then he mentions here, it's time for conservatives to go no holds barred. And if some elected Republicans don't get that, they have to be replaced with ones who do. So again, I think it's a good balance to have multiple political parties in a place that champions democracy and diversity and whatnot. I would prefer an Islamic theocratic society, but Americanistan is not ready yet, so we're going to have to wait on that for a while. The point is that he tries to blame the entire left-wing spectrum for the pain that Charlie's wife and his children have been going through. The point I would like to make, though, is that when you become a political activist, that carries risks. Whether you're Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, Napoleon, Gaius Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Sulla, Caracalla, Caligula. No matter what, you look throughout history and you begin to see how politics is quite intense. And if you're going to enter into it, it gets pretty gnarly. And there's violence from all angles of life. I don't agree with Joey's stoking of the flames here and how he wants to just target the left. And he seems to really push divisive rhetoric. And meanwhile, you'll notice that a lot of rich politicians of the left and right, they hang out together while the common people fight. And that should be noted. Matt Van Swole says, the worst mistake the left has ever made was assassinating Charlie Kirk. Again, the left. As if a huge, democratic convention was held and they all voted to do this. We know at this point there's some nefarious actors here. And it's more than just this Tyler guy. It's to something deeper here. But see, he's surface level. And instead, he wants you to get mad at the barista at Starbucks. The lady who's a dog walker. Right? As if they sanctioned this, which they did not. He continues, we are witnessing the greatest revival of Western values in American history. Western values, really? From which time period? Because the 17th, 18th, and 19th century values of America are not consistent with each other. Not in clothing, not in decorum, not in style, not even in cuisine. And Western values, if you're going to sit here and say they're based on Christianity, which Christian sect? And Turning Point USA promotes women's leadership. The founding fathers, in the beginning, didn't give women the right to vote. It was men who had land status. Alright? So again, Western. Okay? The Western Hemisphere. Europe. Italy does not have the same culture and values as America. And America does not have the same values as Canada. Okay? And so, when I hear Western values, I see P. Diddy. I see R. Kelly. I see Cardi B. I see Dr. Dre. I see the Playboy Mansion. 18-year-old girls joining OnlyFans. Okay? Which angle of Western degeneracy are we looking at? American capitalism. American debt banking. High interest rate banking. Think about it. Alright? And he says, evil will regret that day for all eternity. See, these types of posts, I think, are just writing the energy. And that is something that someone can do really easy with the Magatardians. I've been noticing it for quite some time now, and this is a perfect example of that. I've started to realize that Elon Musk really is a nefarious billionaire. He literally said that Trump was in the Epstein files. He knew what he was doing at that time. He got pissy with Trump not wanting to invest in the electric car stuff, and they had their whole falling out, right? And Elon has a harem of concubine chicks. And he often posts AI goon slop. He's not somebody who is a good father, a good role model. Remember there was that article about how many drugs he's hopped up on. He's not conservative. He's not Christian. I never really saw him promoting Turning Point USA before. But this is an opportunity for him to get back in the good graces of MAGA. If you recall, when he went to war with MAGA over the H-1B visa program. And he went to war with the Groypers. So, Elon is constantly getting kicked out of the right wing and then brought back in. Right? He said he wanted to start the America Party. Does anyone remember that? He was going to start his own political party to rival MAGA. But now, oh, Charlie's dead. Let's go in there and let's get the eyes on me so that I can maximize myself. And he had all those protests that people were doing at the Tesla dealerships. It was huge in California. I saw so many people, and granted, California is a blue state. But the keynote here is that he keeps trying to find ways to save his brand. This is him trying to save his brand. Okay? Now he sees, oh, it's packed. That means, oh, I can use this to benefit myself. This is like the court. If you were in an imperial court and then whoever is invited is like seen as a status symbol, this is a political rally. And he's trying to get back in the good graces of the right wing. He wants the people to buy his cars, to fund his Mars mission. He wants back in. Okay? And this is just politics. Here, our favorite psychopath, Valentina Gomez, the masculine Chola, she is using Charlie Kirk's name to boost herself up. And what is she doing? She's highlighting how much Kirk hated Muslims, hated Islam, hated the Palestinian refugees. She's using Kirk's name to boost her anti-Islam propaganda. Now again, this butterfly says, Erica Kirk forgives her husband's killer. That's a beautiful testament to her character and faith. Truly beautiful. I personally don't have either that character or that faith. I want to see the left utterly burnt to the ground for what they've done. So, burnt to the ground for what they've done. So, to burn something to the ground takes harsh actions, right? Think about when Viking raiders used to show up on a shore. You got those little straw huts. It's all up in flames. Think about how many people throughout history had their villages raided and their farms destroyed through burning. How even in things like in Lord of the Rings, when you see like the orc showing up, that's a very troubling thing. He's encouraging this imagery. Okay? And again, he's doing group blaming. It's something really repulsive that the right wing consistently does. Here we see Elon Musk saying, for Charlie. They're very interesting hand gestures as well. You know, those of you who like to study body language, hand gestures, the occult, very peculiar, right? But to me, this isn't for Charlie, this is for Elon himself. Sure, maybe, you know, he's very moved by this action, but Elon doesn't feel anything for the Palestinian people, for the Gazans. He fearmongers against Muslims, okay? He does not have the same compassion for people who don't want to be deported and their families are being torn apart. He's quite selective with his humanity. And to me, this is just a photo op. It's a way of, okay, oh, I'm back, forgive me, you know, this, and that. Buy my cars, don't hate me anymore, MAGA. It's the flip-flopping back and forth of do we like Elon, do we hate him, creates massive whiplash. And I think if you don't like Elon, you should stand on business. You should say, I don't like him, regardless of whether Trump likes him or not. And Elon can't seem to make up his mind, can't seem to make up who he is. He's facing the man who he wanted to create the America Party to destroy MAGA. Okay? And he was pissed off that MAGA was mad at him for the H-1B visa program. Make it make sense. Now the funny thing is when you see posts like this, the entire Democrat Party, except for Senator Fetterman, were complicit in Charlie's assassination. Now, I know Biden and Kamala Harris had some tense rhetoric during the campaign. The sky was falling. Hitler was around the corner. Trump's the end of the world. Yes, there's fiery and bombastic political rhetoric around campaign season. And I hope we can change that and mainly focus on what economic policies will benefit us. But Americans love fear. We're adrenaline junkies. You gotta scare them. You gotta scare us, and we'll be like, we're gonna go vote. You gotta give a sense of urgency to snap people out of their junk food comas because of how many people are high, drunk. You gotta scare them. You gotta wake them up, and then they'll run to the voting booth. Who's gonna help me? And that's how you get people moving. So, again, this is pretty nefarious rhetoric, because you're saying they're complicit in Charlie's assassination. So, you're making someone give the side eye to their neighbor who maybe is liberal leaning or a progressive, likes AOC, but are harmless overall. So, creating suspicion amongst neighbors. Now, me, I love a good alternative theory. I like to hear questions on things, and I thought this video was pretty decent done, so you should check it out. This one as well by Ian Carroll was quite nice. I know he ruffles the feather of some people, but it was pretty interesting to consider, who is Tyler Robinson? Things aren't adding up. What's funny about this one is they put Satan Yahoo's face on that first release footage of the shooter. They replaced the shooter's face with Benjamin Netanyahu's. One of the good parts about today's technology is that more people have the ability to analyze narratives, and this video was quite compelling, so if you have time, go ahead and check that out as well. This was a bit strange to me. Minting his face on coins, he was a podcaster, a political activist. I don't know, it seems pretty odd. It almost feels so forced. Like, is this gonna push people to the Republican Party even more? I don't know. If, for example, he hated Muslims, so us Muslims Americans, when we're like if you saw one of these, you'd be like, oh, why is someone's face on this that, is very divisive in America? It's an honor to give this to him, but it feels manipulative, because there are people who've done more charity and more goodness who aren't going to get recognized because they weren't friends with Donald Trump. If you recall Kesh Patel saying, "I'll see you in Valhalla," to Charlie Kirk, and how the Valhalla rhetoric is linked to white nationalists, and that it's absurd to say a pagan paradise to someone who's Christian, right? And it's so strange. Now this says, "Welcome to Valhalla, Sar." Now, I'm not part of the Sar meme style. I don't really find that's not my niche, of comedy. But this, however, was funny, and there is something very off about Cash's eyes. He's very weird. Now, I really did agree with a lot of takes in this video by Nick Fuentes. I wish Nick would let up on us Muslims. He doesn't favor us, and I find that to be sad. But with this video that he made about the memorial, I really thought it was my thoughts being repeated back to me, which was pretty cool. To think that I'm not the only one who found it distasteful, greedy, disingenuous, WWE style, and grotesque in a way, and you can just feel the vulture essence going on. And if you have time, I do recommend checking out his take on it, because it's brave to mention that, because we know the Magatardians are canceling people, trying to cancel visas, get people deported, get people's business licenses revoked. And if you'd like to see the archived posts of MAGA calling for that, from politicians to influencers, go and check out the other videos of this series. But point is, it's really off how a death can be used in such a strange way. And I know a lot of the Magatardian influencers were saying it's a spiritual revival. Patrick Bet-David made sure to like really milk it, be there, and it just feels off. It's kind of scary too to know that like when someone dies like that like if you're that person, like if you're Charlie, that people are gonna find a way to boost their career off of you. You know, not being detectives, not advocating for truth, but they're gonna use it to like further themselves and pretend they were always your friend, that they always cared about you, and it gets really fanatical at a certain point. And if you're really into technical stuff, I'd recommend this video because it gets into, you know, different theories about where was the exit wound and all this stuff, because we know that the coroner is like saying the bullet didn't leave. And I'm learning quite a lot about the size of like some of these weapons and their bullets, and you're like, what? So again, we got a lot of military men chiming in, which further is proving like, hey, there's more to the story here. Which, if you go back in retrospect to my previous videos of this series, you begin to see how dangerous and stupid the Magatardian influencers are, who just automatically were out for revenge, who just like, gotta get all the leftists. Oh, is it the Muslims? Is it them? Like Laura Loomer tried to pin this on Iran. You know, you're like, you guys are insane. So again, caution is so important when something like this happens. And now that we're seeing more and more videos come out and more technical and analytical people taking their time to, you know, do their due diligence, there's a lot to be had, and people need to have patience. It makes me realize how smart it is for us Muslims to do what Allah says in the Quran, and to have patience and to verify information if someone comes to us with something, right? So check out that video by Range Day Bro.